Hi, I'm Jason from Worship Artistry, and in this video, we're going to look at 5 different finger picking patterns that you can use to play pretty much any song. We're going to look at Travis style, but we're going to go well beyond that. We're going to talk about how to replace piano with some finger picking. I have to do that a lot. We're also going to even look at 6/8. So we're going to do 5 different ones. And the way that we're going to go about doing this is by doing the same chord progression throughout. So before we even get started, I'm just going to show you what we're going to be playing. And we've just picked these chords mainly because, A, they're just really easy, they're really consistent, but they do kind of point out a few things about the patterns as well. So this will kind of allow you to be able to take this idea and move it to anywhere. So first, let's take a look at these chords. For each one of these progressions, I'm essentially going to be working with the same chords, just so we're focused more on the right hand than we are on the left hand. And those are just going to be a G chord, a C chord, kind of, you've probably played these before. If you want to freeze the camera, you can. You can't freeze the camera, but maybe the video. and then you can also take that C chord, move it up 2 frets, and that's going to give us our D for this particular video. And we're going to be playing around mostly with the same progression, but the real thing we want to focus on is that right hand. So let's take a look at finger picking pattern number 1. Our first pattern that we're going to look at is called Travis style picking. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this. And it actually is Travis. When I first started playing guitar, I actually thought that it was Traverse style because you were traversing the strings. Turns out it's not. Has nothing to do with that. It's because the person who used it was Merle Travis. And it's going to sound like this. So it probably sounds really familiar. It's used in tons of folk, country, you can hear it in rock, you can hear it everywhere. And so the main pattern there is essentially, I always think of it like a leapfrog pattern that's going forward and then back. And so for our G chord, I'm gonna be with my ring finger on this low E string. And I'm gonna, my strings of the chord are that low E, and then I'm gonna be plucking my D, G, and B. Those 3 are open. And what we're gonna do is you can either use your middle and your ring finger to pluck the G and the B, or you can use your pointer and middle to pluck the G and the B. Because we're gonna alternate with our thumb going back and forth between the E string and the D string. So it'll sound like this. Like I said, I'm using my middle and ring fingers. A lot of people like to use their pointer and middle. Really up to you, however you want to go about it. Now let's take that finger picking pattern and apply it to our chords, all right? How does it change when we change chords? The main thing is that we just want to change where our initial thumb pluck happens, right? So we're going from our root note, so in this case it's our G. When we go to our C chord, we are going to be plucking our A string. Everything else is going to stay the same. Same thing when we slide up that shape, right? So we get that. To your C chord. Now here's the cool thing about this pattern. When you alternate your thumb, it really emphasizes the bass notes. In fact, I went for years playing Travis style without doing that, and now I love it. But there is another way to play it, and it really does give it a different kind of a sound. So in this case, we're gonna play the same exact thing. The only difference is instead of alternating with our thumb, we're going to be putting our pointer finger on the D string and then doing the same pattern. So we'll go. Right? And so you kind of hear that it doesn't put as much emphasis on that. And so when you're playing, you can be a little bit more dynamic with it and not always be so obvious on those bass notes. You can just get a little bit more of an even tone. So that's it. That's Travis style picking. It's just alternating that bass note and then moving around within the chords. And you're going to find out that in all these patterns, we're going to be doing that. So a great thing to do is just initially sit down and try and play that pattern. You can even just stay on the G chord to start until it gets really comfortable, then start switching chords. It's really up to you, but you really want to make sure you have nice, even playing throughout. All right, finger picking pattern number 2. We're going to build on that same Travis style bass note alteration, but now we're going to not play all even notes in terms of, we're going to do different note values, and we're also going to include a pinch. Now don't worry, much easier than it sounds, all right? It's going to sound like this. All right, so it doesn't sound so hard when you do it that way, right? You can hear that alternating bass note with your thumb. And in this case, our timing is going to go 1 and a 2 E and, 3 and a 4 E and. And that variation kind of takes it out of that constant moving, that little pause, kind of creates a little bit more texture. And then hitting that open, those 2 notes on the first beat, just kind of give us a little more emphasis of that chord. So let's look at the actual, how that actually works. So we'll use that G chord again. We're using the same position that we did before. So thumb is plucking that low string. I'm using my ring in middle on these higher ones. And we're just plucking our E and our B string together. So we get 1, and then we go right with our thumb because we're kind of essentially leaving out that next note, right? Because we're holding the first note for an 8th note rather than a 16th. So we get that 1 and a 2 E and. So together, 1, then thumb, middle, thumb. So a little different. So nice variation, and then the same thing applies when you add the other chords. So for example, your C chord, now you're plucking your root note is on the A, right? So you get that. Back to that G. D, C, G. You hear that pattern in a lot in a lot of different songs, and here's another little variation that you could do on that. Once again, we're still counting this as this one's one pattern, but if you leave out the pinch, you do the same thing. You don't have to do the pinch, but I think it does add a nice little emphasis on that beat. Pattern number 3, a little more modern, a little less country and folk feeling. You hear it more in rock music. I use a lot of times on Sundays. And essentially, what you're doing is you're getting rid of the alternating bass line, and you're just driving with like an 8th note pattern, just like you would with a bass, just like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just always driving on that bass note rather than doing the alternating, right? Very different kind of a sound. And it still kind of builds off that same idea, but this time we're going to add the emphasis in a different spot. So it's going to sound like this. Right, so in that one, same kind of count, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, right? But now what we're doing is we're always back to that thumb. We're 1 E and a, 2 E and a. So we're only going up to that B string, 1 E and a, and then 2 E and a. We just go back and forth between those two, so you get much more of a drive. Now what you could do, if you wanted to vary that, is you can actually kind of almost do like a hybrid between that Travis style picking, right? But I like being able to emphasize the 1. And when I play that, I actually really like to kind of almost treat it like a bass guitar, like I really kind of drive on that lower note. And that will get you through a lot of different songs. It sounds good fast, sounds good slow. Okay, Pattern number 4. This one is going to go very far away from what we were just doing. And we're going to do more of a piano type rhythm. All right, a lot of times I'm playing songs that are normally led by piano, and I don't have a piano player all the time, and so I use this a lot. It's gonna sound like this. So we're still kind of working with our bass notes, but we're pinching, but this time we're pinching 2 notes at the same time, because if you think about a piano, it's usually playing a chord in the right hand and then more bass notes in the left, right? And so we're gonna get in that G shape, and just because I want this to sound a little more piano-like, instead of leaving that B string open, I'm gonna put my pinky on the 3rd fret of the B. I just think that sounds cooler for this type of pattern. And in this case, we are going to do 8th notes. So we're plucking our thumb in the bass, we're plucking our G and our B together, all at the same time. And then we're just gonna alternate with that open D string. So you get that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then once again, anytime you change chords, you just make sure that you use that thumb in the bass. So you get that. So you're really only emphasizing your bass note whenever you change chords. So there's pattern 4, and that, like I said, is much more like a piano type pattern. Pattern number 5, kind of building off our other ideas, but this time we're going to get out of 4/4 and go into 6/8. Now, if you're like me and you just missed the last 3 takes that I did, you might need to count 6 at first so that you can actually get in that feel. So remember, 6/8, we have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so just because of the way the measure is split up, we're going to take that same kind of Travis style picking, but we just have to kind of reset after 3 rather than 4. So it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So you see that's that Travis style, but we're actually playing it in 6/8 time, just kind of resetting. So it gives it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that bass note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? Kind of gives it a little bit of a different feel. But in terms of the pattern itself, we're just following that Travis idea. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and same idea. I haven't played that change. I can tell we're gonna be friends. I'm not gonna sing it for you though, because that is very much the wrong key. So that's it. Those are 5 patterns that you can use in all kinds of styles of music. And there's a lot of different variations that you can do. You can try reversing things. They sound great in different keys, you know. So for example, let's say you're playing in the key of E. Just make sure that you're always playing the root note first, right? So you get that. You know, in that case with the E chord, you could either do it from that low E and the A, but that chord also makes an octave on the D, so you could. You kind of have all different kinds of options there that you can play with, and those will work in different shapes. All with those 5 patterns. So if those are new to you, I would just spend some time playing around with different chords, take some of your favorite chord progressions, just see what sounds good until it becomes such a natural thing that you can easily start adding other notes or be able to sing over the top of it or anything like that. So there you go. That's 5 finger picking patterns. You can pretty much use in any situation. If you want to learn more songs, go more in depth, Worship Artistry has nearly 700 songs and all of them include a solo acoustic arrangement. So you can kind of bring in other melodies, a lot of finger picking in those. And so you can go check those out. And if you don't want to do that, either way, just, ring the bell, subscribe, do all the stuff that everybody asks you to do. But when we ask you, actually do it. And we'll see you in the next one.